Alban Mari is a second-year PhD student in the Institute of Electronics and Telecommunications of Rennes in France. He received his MSc degree from Rennes Superior School of Engineering at Rennes 1 University in 2020, and prior to his thesis, Alban published his first conference paper in ICASP in 2021. It was about 360-degree video compression. In the context of his thesis, Alban works on image and video compression adapted to machines. More specifically, the goal is to reduce the amount of information that must be sent to a vision task algorithm while still having accurate predictions. So, Alban, please, the floor is yours.
So thank you for the nice introduction. So to introduce in this talk, I will start with a bit of context. So the first thing, okay. So the first thing that I want to note is that nowadays we use a lot more of connection, which are machine-to-machine connection. Oops, sorry. So we use a lot more of machine-to-machine connection compared to before. So here we have a study which shows a forecast of the number of connection, of machine-to-machine connection. So in 2017, we had around 1 billion of connection, and nowadays we have around 4 billion, which is 4 times more. So this huge increase requires, create a lot of problems. So for example, some of these machine-to-machine transmission are bandwidth consuming. So it means that it creates a problem of bandwidth. So tackling this problem is very important. So let me show you an example of this kind of machine-to-machine transmission. So for example, here we have a camera that will record something. So here we have an image or a video. This image or video will be sent to an artificial intelligence, and afterwards we want the artificial intelligence to perform a vision task. So here, for example, it's semantic segmentation on the image. So most of the time, the camera is an embedded camera, which is a low-power device without too much computation on it. So therefore, performing artificial intelligence, which is most of the time deep learning-based algorithm, is very heavy and not doable. So one solution is to outsource the computation to an external server, or I will call it the vision task side over there. So by doing that, we allow to reduce the computation on the camera side, but at the same time, we have to send a lot of information, the image or video, to the camera side. So to compensate this new problem, what we do is to add an encoder so that we can compress the information to send a low amount of information, and at the camera side, we can decode the information and send it to the artificial intelligence. That way, we don't have to send that much information to the external server. The problem with this approach is that most of the encoding systems are lossy compression, which introduce artifact to image. And if we introduce artifact to image, artificial intelligence will not perform as good as it is on an uncompressed image. So this graph illustrates the last thing that I just said. So if we reduce the rate or the quality of the image, if we go to the left, what will happen at the same time is that we will lower the quality of the prediction of the artificial intelligence algorithm. So if we want to have a good accuracy and at the same time a good rate, which means a low rate, we would like to have a point over there, but it's not possible in the current case. So there is a need to tackle this problem. So this kind of reduce of performance when the rate decrease is valid for a very wide range of vision tasks. So for example, it's valid for image classification, object detection, semantic segmentation, and it's also valid for a wide range of visual degradation, which is not only compression algorithm, but also blurring, noise image, and this kind of thing. So the question is, since there is a decrease in performance, how can we improve this resilience so that we can have at the same time a low rate of transmission and a good quality of prediction? So here I add again the same graph where the quality, the performance of the artificial intelligence decrease when the rate decrease. So what we will like to have in an ideal case is to not lose any accuracy if we go to a lower rate. However, this is not really realistic. So there is few approaches in the literature that aim what I call general resilience enhancement. So the goal there is to perform better on every kind of noise without being better on a specific one. So for example, we want a model to being more resilient to noisy image, blur image, compressed image, and so on. So this approach is better at everything, so it generalizes very well, but at the same time, it doesn't bring great gains because the task is very hard, because the artificial intelligence need to perform well on everything. So it's very hard. So one approach to compensate this problem will be to being good at something very specific. So instead of being good at everything at the same time, aiming on a specific thing to be robust against. So here in this example, we work on, for example, a specific rate of image, a specific quality, and therefore we are able to have a model very good at this level of quality. Afterwards, we can do the same thing for other quality, and so we can have a specific models that are specialized on a specific quality, which will perform better overall. So now I will explain the contribution of the paper to show how it is done. So just a bit of context just before. So it's the same as before. We have an image or a video. So here we are talking about classification. So we have an image. We will encode the image with an encoder. We'll send the encoding to an external server. We'll decode the image. So therefore, the decoded image will be distorted with artifacts in it. And afterwards, we will use an artificial intelligence, which is here this model, which is called model F. And this vision task algorithm will predict a label, which is, in this case, just a classification. So the question is, how can we retrain in an efficient manner the model F so that we can handle distortion well in the image? So I will divide the training in two different steps. So the first step is an introduction step, I will say. The goal is to train a first model, which is called model G in blue. So this model learns to classify good image. I mean image without any artifact in it. So it's the classic way of performing classification. Once the model is trained, we obtain model weights, which are called theta G. Once we have this training, we will do the step 2, which consists of training the model F, which must perform well on distorted image. So this training will start with model weight theta G, so this one, so pretty classic, and also we will obtain model weight theta F after training. The particular part there is that we will use the prediction of the model G, so G of X, which is the prediction of the model G on undistorted image, and we will use this prediction to train the model F. So the question is how we will use this prediction. So to explain that, I will show the few loss function. So for the first step, the loss function is straightforward. We just minimize the cross entropy loss, which is L0 in this case. So X is the image uncompressed. Y is the label, and G is the model that we want to train. And for the step 2, we will use the same kind of loss, L0, instead that we will train on distorted image. At the same time, we will add a second loss function, which is a distance function between the prediction of the model G and the model F. So the goal will be to minimize this distance so that the prediction of the model F on distorted image will be similar to the prediction on undistorted image. So if I dive a bit deeper in this distance function, if I give you an example, if both models predict the good class, so here red fox and red fox, the distance function will give something close to 0. But if the model F that we train fail to give an accurate prediction, then the distance function will be much greater to 0. Therefore, the model will need to learn and need to be trained a bit more. So for this distance function, we simply use what's called the KL divergence distance function for the D function, the function D. So here we have therefore two losses in our loss that we want to minimize with gradient descent. So the first one is what we call a fidelity term, while the second one is a regularization term. And adding this second loss benefits the training because it helps the model to converge better. So our approach on the right is pretty similar to another approach, which is called stability training on the literature. So I will explain the difference that there is between the two. So first, we can see that we use a second model, model G, and while their approach use only one model. So this means that our model do not need to perform well on undistorted image, but our model F need to perform well only on distorted image. Therefore, the task is easier because the model do not need to perform well on undistorted and distorted image at the same time. Also, we use directly the type of distortions that we want to be robust against, while stability training approach use generic kind of noise, which is additive white Gaussian noise. So in this case, since they don't use the distortions that we want to be robust against at training time, the task is much harder once again to in this case. So now I will show some experiment to compare my approach, which is a training procedure, compared to other kind of training procedure. So first, I will show the considered training procedure in the experiment. So the first one, first I will start once again by dividing the training procedure in two steps. The first step is the same as before, where we want to train the model G on undistorted image. And once we have this model G, we'll use it in some of this training procedure, and all of this training procedure will be compared. So first, the first training procedure is just to simply use the model G, train on undistorted image, and use this model to predict class on distorted image. So this is what we call baseline because there is no other training that is involved. The second approach is what we call fine-tuning. The goal is just to start from the model theta G to train the model to obtain the weights theta F, and we train this model on distorted image. The third approach is the one that I told before, the one from the literature that we had in our comparison, which is stability training. And the last one is our approach. So to evaluate our method, we will use few things. So first dataset, we will use the ImageNet dataset, which is very common. And we will also use two very common classifiers, which are WesNet50 and MNASNet. So both of these classifiers will be evaluated on this dataset, and we will use a total of 9 distortions to see if our results are consistent among all distortions. So here we consider a very wide range of distortion from high quality high quality compression without too much artifacts to low quality with higher amount of artifacts, and we consider also different codecs. So what we can see here is the performance of the baseline model on all the considered distortion. So here we have the rate that we want to minimize, and here we have the accuracy that we want to maximize. In other way to say it, we want to have a point right there, for example. So it is obviously not the case here because the accuracy drops very fast when the rate decreases. So this is not working very well, which is expected. If we compare it to the stability approach, which is very generic, we can see that some of this distortion will bring gains, will be able to see gains on some of this distortion, but it is not the case everywhere, and also it does not improve the accuracy very well. If we compare it to the fine-tuning approach, we can see that a big gain is obtained for all of the considered distortion. So this is due to a simple explication. Using the distorted image at training time help a lot the model to perform well because the task is much easier. And afterward, if we compare fine-tuning to our approach, we can see that we manage to increase even more the gains that we can obtain. Even if it's a slight gain, we manage to to reach even higher accuracies. So there is more experiment in the paper. I won't enter into too much detail because I don't have time for that. But just to explain it in a few seconds, the goal was to observe the generalization of our model by comparing by training on one distortion and evaluating on another one and see if there is a generalization between different distortion. And what we can do without showing too deeply in it, we can see that we have what we call intra-codec generalization and inter-codec generalization. In conclusion, so I presented a new training procedure, which is called expert training. And this training procedure, in our use case, allows to reach higher accuracy on distorted image. So existing approach do not aim the same kind of problem. They aim at better generalization. But since this problem is a much harder task because the artificial intelligence need to perform well on every kind of noise, the gains that we can expect, even if the gains that we can expect are lower. And finally, few perspectives for our approach. One of the problems that we have is that we specialize on a single distortion at a time. So there is maybe a need to specialize on a wider range of distortion and maybe merge models together so that we don't have one model per kind of distortion. So thank you for listening. If you have any question, feel free to ask. Yeah, so that's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So any questions? I probably missed it, but what happens if your images are not distorted? If the compression is very high quality, so they come almost undistorted, like almost perfect.
Yeah, so this is one of the distortions that we consider. Here it's this one, for example. So JPEG with quality 75, which is pretty high. And what we observe is that we reach accuracy, so it's over there, with a high rate, which are pretty similar to the accuracy that we obtain on undistorted image, which is the blue line over there. So I don't know if it answers your question.
Do you think that if you use any other compression, because you experiment only with, or okay, you experiment also with JPEG 2000, yes.
Yeah. We try 3 different codecs and
right.
yeah.
Yes.
And I did other experiments that are not on this paper with other codecs that are, for example, based on VTM, which is a more recent codec. And what we can see is we have a curve that is even up there, so even more at the left. So yeah, we consider multiple kind of codecs.
All right. Other questions? Yeah, we have to move forward. It's time for the. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
yeah.